Hi, welcome everybody back to the Creating the Impactful Legacy podcast. And today I'm really excited to have Barbara Ann with me today. And I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell her us a little bit more about what she does and how she really helps people. But we had a great conversation probably a couple of weeks ago, and I thought I really would like to support her by letting us know what more she does and how she really supports other people. So Barbara, tell me a little bit about how you got started doing what you're doing now.
Thank you so much, Mari-Lyn. Yes, we had a great conversation, and I really appreciate you inviting me on to do this podcast with you. So, of course, thank you for calling me Barbara Ann, because my full name is just absolutely ridiculous. But just for you, it's Barbara Ann Gardenhire-Mills, and I am the owner of Purpose-Filled Solutions and Evolutions, which is a consulting and coaching firm that helps companies and individuals to essentially get unstuck, to navigate their way to resources and finding their core purpose, finding their mission, and basically going through transformation to achieve their goals and find happiness, whether that's in their professional or their personal life.
Okay.
Would you like me to explain how I got started in it?
Yeah,
so,
sure. Love to hear it.
my company is new, but the work that I'm doing is not. I've been doing coaching and training and consulting since the mid-90s, which is getting further and further away.
Yeah.
And I work with small businesses. So I'm actually a dual career person. And I've worked in a number of different roles. And what I found over the years is in those roles, we were always able to address the who, what, where, when, why, who, what, where, when, and how. We never really had time to get to the why. And so much of what I do really leads from the why. See a need, fill a need. After working with small businesses for so many years and talking to them about things like why you should incorporate versus using your social security number and things like that, finally was like, okay, it's time to take my own advice and form an actual company, which is how Purpose-Filled Solutions and Evolutions came into being.
Yeah, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, when you run solo for a long time and all of a sudden you have to make it more formal, that's like, oh my God, like, do I really have to? You know, but yeah. So tell me a little bit more about what did you decide to come into the why, like ask small businesses why? Do you find a lot of them don't know why? Or do they just do it just because they need to make a living or, you know, become self-employed?
Great question. For some, they knew why, and then they kind of lost it along the way. They forgot why.
Right.
For others, they didn't really have an authentic why. Maybe it was because they heard that was something profitable to do.
Right.
Recently, I had someone reach out to me because they were thinking about purchasing a plumbing business. And after further discussion, the only motivation behind that was it was a profitable business.
Right.
There was no personal investment or interest in anything associated with it.
Right.
They just saw it as a monetary opportunity. While that can be a why, that's not the type of why that I look to partner with companies and individuals to achieve.
Right. Right. Yeah. So tell me some stories about some great successes you've had working with clients. I know your business is new, but you have the same experiences. So can you share some experiences where you've worked with clients and maybe you've had to help them develop their why, or maybe you've had to tell them, sorry.
Yes. So from a business perspective, Let me start with one that was a little more challenging. That company hired me to help them from a consulting and a coaching standpoint.
Mhm.
And during the 2 months that I worked with them, I helped the CEO realize that changes that they were implementing and even the staff that they had brought on board wasn't really what they wanted to do.
Mhm.
What they had originally wanted to do was something very different. They decided to go in a different direction, only through coaching to realize that really what they wanted to do was what they were thinking about originally.
Right.
And that CEO decided to just stop everything and
Mhm.
regroup, including a couple of different things that they had in the pipeline,
Mhm.
because it just wasn't right for them.
Mhm.
Now, the other extreme is, fortunately, yes, I've worked with companies that have been very successful
Yeah.
in finding their why. Because of my other life, some of the consulting services that I offer include incorporating business planning,
Mhm.
strategic planning, development, business continuity planning,
Right.
and a lot of work with pursuing and obtaining contracts,
Mhm.
both in the private industry as well as in the federal
Mhm.
and state municipal government. So I've worked with a couple of different non-majority businesses to help them get certifications
Mhm.
at the federal and state level in order to engage in contracting.
Mhm.
There's a company that I worked with in Pennsylvania before incorporating
Yeah.
Purposefilled. They made flags. And when I met this person actually was really questioning whether or not they should be continuing in their business.
Mhm.
And wasn't having what I would describe as the best day. And short story, basically, that company figured out how, through resources and technical assistance from me,
Mhm.
to do business with the federal government, because the
Mhm.
federal government is supposed to purchase all of its materials and supplies to the extent possible from companies here in the United States.
Right.
And that sometimes can be challenging.
Mhm.
The company went on to get contracts with several different agencies to make flags
Mhm.
that are produced here in the United States.
Right.
And the next time I got to see that person in person, as opposed to, because a lot of things they do is virtual,
Right.
that person had hired additional staff, was doing really well, was almost very different than the first person that I met only
Mhm.
a year and a half earlier. One of my favorite small businesses that I got to work with was someone who we'll just say that they were not bankable.
Mhm.
They had a lot of work to do. They had been very unhappy. They had been unemployed, and they knew what their passion was.
Right.
Their passion was to create a company that would give day laborers an option other than standing on a corner waiting for a truck to drive up and see if somebody wanted to work that day.
Right.
And worked with that company to develop and refine the plan, to coaching with the CEO of what would become that company.
Right.
And the next time, to make a long story short, that I saw him after he got his financing,
Yeah.
and from a CDFI, or a community development financial institution. The
Mhm.
next time I actually got to see him in person was at an expo.
Mhm.
We had talked and emailed and things, but we were at an expo, and all of a sudden I hear my name yell out. This person comes running over to me, Miss Barbara Ann, Miss Barbara Ann. I didn't even recognize the person, because the person I originally met had dreadlocks and sweat clothes on. And so all of a sudden this person comes running at me with the locks pulled back in a suit. And it took me a second. He literally hugged me so hard, he broke my necklace. And he was there as one of the expo sponsors.
Wow.
The financing that he had gotten, he had successfully started the business, had brought in staff. He created a temp agency that employed day laborers
Right.
that were available on call. And it was funny because later when we had a reception, he
Yeah.
put on sweat clothes. I was like, okay, there's the person that I started working with 2 years ago. Now I recognize you. But in a year and a half, he went from almost barely squeaking through getting financing to looking at what was going to be $1 million a year.
Yeah.
Because there really was such a demand for his passion project.
Right.
It just needed somebody to believe in him and
Mhm.
to encourage him to believe in himself enough
Right.
to be able to make it happen.
Right. Right.
So those are some of the experiences that I have that when I think about them, and I keep a collection. So like that day at Expo, he was giving out mugs.
Yeah.
And so I have one of the mugs that he was giving out, and I keep that on my desk when I'm on my desk as a reminder of the different people that I've helped discover their core purpose along the way, and how that can translate into true happiness and success.
Right. And so, yeah, that's a great philosophy. But so how do you get somebody to really believe in or go after their purpose or their philosophy? How do you get somebody to go that way?
They have to want to. That really is a key part of it. I have had people reach out to me in sheer desperation because they've tried everything else. Most of the people that I work with and have been for years came through referrals.
Yeah.
Someone told them about how they were helped, and then they sent them to me. In fact, officially launching Purpose Filled, I kind of jokingly say I put up my shingle and the floodgates opened.
Yeah.
Even when I posted on LinkedIn that I was officially incorporated, I had 2 different people send me messages through LinkedIn. Does that mean you're finally accepting new clients? And I said, yes, it means I'm fine, because I could really, with having another job, I really was limited and didn't want to take on more, even though this is my core purpose. My core purpose is helping people navigate to theirs.
Yeah,
definitely. That's why I'm put here professionally on this earth. But I also want to make sure that I can fulfill the promise.
Right.
And so I really make every effort to help as many people as I can, but also making sure that I can truly, authentically be present for them when I'm working with them.
Right. Yeah, that's always a challenge, right? And it's always a scheduling issue or it's just trusting yourself that you can do it. I think all of us have probably 1 or 2 other things we do other than their own business, because our own businesses have their own ebb and flow to things, right? And you may not have anything for a while, and then it's I actually, it was kind of interesting. It's probably not really but I was working somewhere, and to order my supplies I had to order them by 1 day in a time period. If I missed that, I got no supplies. So I said to her, why do you have such strict, she says, well, Mari-Lyn, I work here part-time and I work somewhere else part-time. And I says, well, why don't you just have the full-time job one place? And she says, well, I just learned that. And so she's probably a type of person that wasn't able or didn't see herself as an entrepreneur, or somebody that's willing to go out and do what they really want to do. And so she just said, I have 2 part-time jobs, and so if one fails, I have another one. So it's sort of like, as an entrepreneur myself, and I've been one all my life, is that I always have had my own business, and then I can take on another job or whatever, but it's all about the scheduling, right? And it
Yes.
has to be even the job has to be something that you would like to do, or you have some interest in doing it. If you're just doing it for the sake of money, then what happens, it kind of backfires.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, you're so right. I actually had a client that wanted to hire me full time
Right.
and hire me away from my job. And I explained that I love that too.
Yeah.
What I'm doing with Purpose Filled and the people that I get the privilege of working with,
Yeah.
I've known that I wanted to do that for a very long time. But I also get to meet and work with so many people in a different capacity in my day job.
Right.
I work for a community development financial institution
Mhm.
that focuses on helping small business and micro businesses start,
Yeah.
grow. It used to be start, grow, succeed. Ever since the pandemic, it's been more like start, grow, pivot, adapt, take a step back, readjust, adapt again, overcome, and succeed.
Yeah.
And I explained to them that as much as I appreciated the offer, my mission's not done there yet
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
And they knew what they were getting.
Yeah.
At one point, when I was with a federal agency, they were an organization that I was responsible for managing.
Yeah.
So my position with them was specifically created for me.
Mhm.
And I knew who I was going to work with. I knew that the CEO of that company is a servant leader that I knew was very authentic
Right.
about why he does what he does, why he left the banking industry 20 years ago, why my employer, which serves a very small area,
Mhm.
still does a lot more small business loans
Mhm.
than other organizations 2, 3, and 4 times our size
Right.
that cover broader territories. And a lot of that comes down to the authenticity and integrity of our board, our CEO, and the staff that work for the organization, and our commitment to making capital available to groups that otherwise struggle to
Mhm.
get capital.
Right.
Whether that be for gender or race or military status even.
Yeah.
And but yes, when the time comes, I've made it very clear, he's fully aware and is blessed the fact that I have this other company because
Yeah.
all of us there are entrepreneurs too.
Yeah.
How can you give entrepreneurial advice to businesses if you have not yourself,
Been there.
effective advice,
Yeah.
been an entrepreneur? So more than half of our staff
Mhm.
has owned a business, currently owns a business, or in some instances are working as consultants because they still have another business.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I find it so interesting. So many agencies never had a business before, and they're running around telling entrepreneurs what to do. And I'm going like,
Yes. Yeah.
this is pathetic.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, when I had helped found a nonprofit, you know, how can somebody who's never run a business really truly understand what it's like to not pay yourself to make sure that
Right.
your staff are paid at Christmas?
Mhm.
You know, and I think that's one of the reasons why um, I am also very effective at what I do.
Mhm.
I know I don't, everybody's different. Everybody's story is different, but everybody has one.
Right.
And in my case, as a woman of color, having been a business owner, been a government contractor, I could empathize with the businesses that are reaching out to me for assistance. And that's why they're reaching out.
Right.
They're looking for someone who has at least walked in similar shoes.
Right. Yeah. 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 You have to have that, like you were saying, to be really, truly authentic in what you're doing and what you're offering. You have to be willing to be all that,
Mhm.
that type of thing. Yeah. So maybe you could tell us a little bit more about I know you shared some of your successes, and can you share anything that somebody wanted to work with you, but you just couldn't for whatever reason? Was there any situation like that?
There is a client that I did learn a strong lesson with,
Mm-hmm.
where I suspected that taking the contract probably wasn't a good idea,
Mm-hmm.
because of where they were in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not listen to myself because
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to help.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out to be yes.
Yeah.
That was more in a consultant capacity than a coaching capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to hire even a coach, but if you're going to hire anyone for a particular expertise that they can bring to you and ignore what they're telling you,
Mm-hmm.
um, you're just throwing your money away. And in that case,
Mm-hmm.
that relationship ended. The only other time is there have been a couple of individuals who have sought coaching that really needed professional counseling.
Right.
You know, coaching helps you go from, you know, functional to optimal.
Right.
Counseling is for people who want to move from feeling dysfunctional to functional.
Right.
And so there have been people that have reached out where I have encouraged them to seek actual professional help
Mm-hmm.
first. Because I am not a psychologist. I am
Right.
not a psychiatrist. I'm not a clinically licensed social worker. I have a master's of science in executive leadership
Yeah.
and lots of certifications, but I am not a mental health professional.
Right. Right.
So yes, I refer in those
Mm-hmm.
instances.
Right. So tell me who's your favorite type of client you like to work with?
My favorite type of client is somebody who is, whether they're a company and they're just kind of like, we don't know what to do, help us fix ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, an early entrepreneur
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't really know how to get started,
Mm-hmm.
or isn't really clear on the steps they that are available to them to help them expand or grow into new areas.
Mm-hmm.
And individuals, I like working with people who are just sick and tired of being sick and tired. I hear that a lot. Can you help me? I am miserable in my job, but I don't know how to change careers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sick and tired of letting everybody walk all over
Mm-hmm.
me. And this happens a lot in people-oriented type roles.
Right.
I keep putting everybody I work with ahead of myself.
Right.
How do I stop?
Yeah.
When is self-care not selfish?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
I love working with people who have the potential to do greater things. I had a client that texted me this morning that I just did a coaching session with recently about the fact that she's with an organization that is going to look for an executive director.
Mm-hmm.
And we coached around whether or not that person should put in for it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I, as a coach, it is not my job to advise.
Right.
It is to help guide. And that client ended up having a conversation with their board president and is now going to throw their hat in the ring for consideration
Mm-hmm.
as executive director of this organization.
Awesome.
And that's very exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't even talked to that client, but just in the nature of the text,
Yeah.
I could feel the excitement and the energy from
Mm-hmm.
states away about the fact that, okay, I believe in myself.
Right.
But others do too.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't so much whether or not she believed in herself. It was, would others also
Mm-hmm.
potentially see her? And it was all the things you've done.
Right.
all of the amazing things you've done. So we're gonna have some celebrating to do soon. The first time I'm going to meet this client in person is going to be at an event that their organization is hosting. I haven't seen this client in a couple of years, so
Mhm.
it's going to be really exciting to
Right.
be able to celebrate
Right.
with them
Mhm.
this latest development in their journey in
Right.
coaching, and to see how far they've come
Mhm.
in the person that I talked to that was in an entirely different job only a few months ago,
Right.
going to a different job to now being considered for executive director of
Yeah.
that company.
Right.
How could I not? Just
Mhm.
my heart is just so excited, just
Yeah.
bursting with energy
Yeah.
at the possibilities of what this person is going to do.
Mhm.
And that I got to play just one small part in navigating them down that path.
Mhm. Mhm. So cool. So cool. Yeah. When you're talking about looking after yourself, that's what I call kindness to oneself, is taking the
Yes.
time and being self-care is self-kindness to oneself. So yeah. So cool. Great. So any final words you'd like to say before we close off?
Thank you so much. I love I love the fact that I actually got to meet and connect with you, and I'm very appreciative that you gave me this opportunity to share what
Mhm.
I'm doing and
Mhm.
my little space of how I'm changing the world.
Right.
If anybody's interested, my name is my website. It's ridiculously long, just like my name. So I can be found at purposefilled solutions and evolutions.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn as
Mhm.
Barbara Ann Gardenhire-Mills. And
Yeah.
I appreciate your time and the time of your podcast subscribers for
Yeah.
giving me this opportunity.
You're welcome. And of course, your name will be listed on podcasts.heartatworkonline.org. That's where everybody's listed, and they can read a little bit more about you and see if how they can engage with you. And so it'd be pretty awesome. So anyway, great. Thank you so much, Barbara, for hanging out with me today. And I so appreciate it. So
Oh, thank you so much. I love connecting with people that are similarly passionate and driven and of a similar mindset. So I am eternally grateful for this opportunity.
yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. So in the end, we only have each other and ourselves. So be kind to yourself, and then you'll be kind to others. Really simple. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.